Take a deep breath and imagine stepping back in time, not centuries, but tens of thousands of years, into a land that looks familiar yet feels like another planet. Welcome to prehistoric Australia, a place so wild, so fierce, and so unforgiving that calling it a nightmare might just be putting it lightly. You see, Australia today is known for its unique wildlife. Kangaroos, koalas, wombats, even a few deadly snakes and spiders. But back then, the island continent was home to giants, monsters, and predators that seemed to crawl straight out of a horror movie. Let me introduce you to a few of them. First, Megalania. Imagine a Komodo dragon the size of a minivan, 7 meters long, over 600 kilograms. This was not some shy lizard sunbathing on a rock. Megalania was an apex predator, venomous, and fast enough to hunt giant kangaroos. If you were a human back then, this beast would not hesitate to make you lunch. And speaking of kangaroos, forget the ones you know today. Diprotodon, the prehistoric kangaroo, stood 3 meters tall. It didn't hop, it walked on 2 massive legs with claws and a punch that could probably flatten a boulder. Now let's head to the skies, but don't expect peace there either. Overhead flew Argentavis's cousin, a terrifying creature called Geniornes, a flightless thunderbird nearly 2 meters tall, with a beak strong enough to crush bone. You wouldn't hear it coming, you'd just see the shadow and then, gone, and then there was the water. You might think, I'll stay near a lake, safer there. Not quite. Lurking in those ancient billabongs was Quincana, a crocodile on steroids. This beast could grow up to 7 meters long, but unlike today's crocs, it walked on land with long legs. Yes, a crocodile that could chase you down, still not enough to haunt your dreams. How about Diprotodon, the largest marsupial ever to live? Imagine a wombat the size of a car. Harmless, maybe, but in a world where even the plant eaters were giants, just navigating the terrain was a risk. Now here's the eerie part. Early humans were there. Our ancestors faced this nightmare daily. They didn't have modern weapons, steel armor, or drones. Just sharpened sticks, stone tools, and raw courage. And they survived, they hunted, they adapted. They learned to read the land, understand the beasts, and eventually reshape the continent forever. In fact, some scientists believe humans played a role in the extinction of these megafauna, either through hunting or by burning landscapes to control food and movement. But for thousands of years, they lived side by side with monsters. So, next time you see a cute koala or a hopping kangaroo, remember, their ancestors shared a world where every bush could hide a beast, every river might be your last, and the skies could bring thunderbirds crashing down. Megalania, the apex predator of prehistoric Australia, was one of the most terrifying creatures to ever roam the continent. Estimated to reach lengths of over 7 meters 23 feet and weighing upwards of 600 kilograms 300 pounds, this ancient lizard was a giant among reptiles. Imagine a modern Komodo dragon, already considered formidable, and then scale it up to the size of a car. That's Megalania, larger, faster, and far more dangerous. As a member of the monitor lizard family, closely related to the Komodo dragon, Megalania was built for hunting. Its muscular body, massive jaws, and sharp, serrated teeth were perfectly adapted to tearing flesh and crushing bone. But what truly set it apart from many other predators of its time was its likely venomous bite. Evidence suggests that, like its modern relatives, Megalania may have possessed venom glands that released toxins into its prey. These toxins could cause rapid blood loss, lowered blood pressure, and shock, weakening the victim even if the initial bite wasn't fatal. A creature that big, fast, and possibly venomous didn't just hunt, it dominated. It's believed that Megalania preyed on a wide range of large animals, including giant kangaroos, wombat-like diprotodons, and possibly even early humans. Fossil evidence places Megalania in direct overlap with the first Aboriginal people to arrive in Australia over 40 years ago. This means that our ancient ancestors may have encountered this monstrous lizard in the wild, perhaps stalking them through the bush or ambushing them near watering holes. What makes Megalania so chilling is the way it defied the typical image of a cold-blooded reptile. Unlike slow, sluggish lizards basking lazily in the sun, Megalania was likely agile and fast, able to pursue prey overland with terrifying efficiency. Its long, muscular tail and strong limbs allowed it to move quickly across varied terrain. It didn't rely on stealth alone. It could chase down and overpower its victims. This made it unique in the predator hierarchy of prehistoric Australia. While large marsupial lions and saber-toothed predators had their own advantages, Megalania's combination of size, power, and possibly venom gave it an unmatched edge. Its presence would have cast a constant shadow of danger over the lives of other animals and of early humans. Picture walking through ancient woodlands or open plains, never knowing if a 7-meter reptile was lurking nearby, waiting to strike. Even when not actively hunting, Megalania would have controlled territories and dominated water sources, forcing other creatures to be constantly alert. It didn't just live in the ecosystem. It shaped it through fear and predation. Its size alone made it almost invulnerable to other predators, making it the undisputed king of the ancient outback. Procoptodon, the prehistoric giant short-faced kangaroo, was a towering presence in ancient Australia, standing over 3 meters tall and weighing up to 250 kilograms. Unlike the modern kangaroo, which hops using long, springy feet and a counterbalancing tail, Procoptodon walked upright, much like a human, using its powerful hind limbs and a relatively short, thick tail. Its sheer size and unique physiology made it one of the most fascinating and intimidating herbivores of the Pleistocene epoch. With forward-facing eyes, a flat face, and a short snout, Procoptodon had a vision suited for depth perception, helpful in maneuvering through complex terrain and spotting potential threats. Its oversized skull housed large teeth adapted for grinding tough, fibrous vegetation, suggesting that it thrived on dry grasses, shrubs, and desert flora, able to survive in arid regions of the Australian interior. Its hands were equally remarkable. Procoptodon had 2 large fingers equipped with sharp, curved claws that could have been used for grasping branches or pulling down tough vegetation, but those claws could also have been formidable tools for defense. Imagine a creature with the reach of a basketball player, the muscle mass of a bodybuilder, and claws capable of slashing. This was not a gentle giant. Its long, robust limbs were not only useful for walking, but gave it the ability to deliver devastating kicks or punches if threatened. The power in its legs, far beyond that of any kangaroo today, was enough to knock over large predators or rival males during competition. While it was not a predator itself, Procoptodon lived in a world surrounded by apex hunters like Megalania, marsupial lions, and giant crocodiles. As such, its size and strength weren't just evolutionary quirks. They were survival necessities. It likely traveled in small groups or herds, which added another layer of defense, allowing individuals to alert one another of threats. Fossil evidence shows wear patterns in their joints that suggest frequent movement across long distances, likely in search of food and water in an environment that could be harsh and unpredictable. Their height would have given them a distinct advantage, reaching higher branches for food that smaller animals couldn't access, and scanning the horizon for signs of danger. Procoptodon's presence would have been an imposing sight on the ancient plains, an upright, 2-legged giant moving deliberately through dry scrublands, its eyes scanning, its claws ready, and its body built like a living fortress. In terms of evolutionary design, it was a marvel, a specialized herbivore that blended power, intelligence, and adaptability. Its unique locomotion, similar to walking more than hopping, challenges what we understand about kangaroo evolution. Unlike its modern descendants, it didn't rely on bounding leaps, but rather on sturdy strides, allowing it to move with control and strength. This mode of movement, combined with its massive size, would have allowed it to cover ground efficiently, conserve energy in hot climates, and stand its ground against almost any threat in its environment. Quincana was not your average crocodile. Unlike the modern saltwater crocs that lie in wait beneath the water's surface, Quincana was a terrifying land-dwelling predator that roamed the Australian outback during the Pleistocene. It was a member of a now extinct group known as terrestrial Megafauna crocodiles, and it shattered every common assumption about how crocodiles behave. Estimates suggest Quincana grew up to 7 meters in length, with some specimens possibly even larger. But what made it truly nightmarish was the way it moved. Unlike today's aquatic crocs, Quincana had long, powerful limbs positioned beneath its body, enabling it to gallop and chase prey on land. It wasn't just a lurking predator, it was a pursuing one. Its body was muscular and agile, with a long tail that may have helped with balance during fast sprints. Its skull was tall, and its jaws were filled with serrated, blade-like teeth designed not just for grabbing, but for slicing through flesh. These teeth were unlike the conical ones found in modern crocodiles that hold prey underwater. They were meant for active predation, for tearing open prey in quick, vicious attacks. Quincana didn't rely on stealth and ambush alone. It could run, it could chase, and it could overpower. Its hunting style may have been more like that of a land-based predator, ambushing or actively pursuing prey through dry scrublands and forests rather than waiting motionless in rivers. Fossil remains have been found primarily in northeastern Australia, suggesting it thrived in environments where it could utilize both its land-based mobility and access to fresh water. Quincana likely preyed on a range of animals, including giant marsupials, juvenile diprotodons, giant flightless birds, and possibly even early humans. Imagine walking through dense bushland and hearing the sudden rustle of branches behind you, only to realize a crocodilian, not slithering through the swamp but sprinting on land, is bearing down at incredible speed. Its very existence challenges the assumption that reptiles are slow, lurking creatures. Quincana was a predator of high energy and specialized mobility. The structure of its legs and feet showed adaptations for weight, bearing, and speed, giving it a level of agility rare among reptiles. Its long, narrow snout still resembled that of crocodilians, but its head was elevated higher above the ground due to its leg structure, giving it better sight lines across the terrain. This visual advantage, combined with its hunting tools, meant it was perfectly built for surprise attacks and fast chases. It likely used terrain to its advantage, hiding behind rocks or low shrubs before bursting into motion. Prey animals in its environment had to evolve not only speed, but also heightened awareness to avoid falling victim to such an aggressive, agile predator. There's no doubt that Quincana occupied a dominant role in its ecosystem. It competed with other apex predators like Megalania and the marsupial lion, but its unique adaptations gave it an edge in specific environments. Its land-based abilities allowed it to access prey in areas far from rivers or swamps, expanding its hunting range well beyond the reach of water-restricted predators. This mobility also made it unpredictable, a predator whose territory wasn't confined to riverbanks but stretched deep into grasslands and woodlands. Early humans in prehistoric Australia found themselves in a world unlike any other, surrounded by colossal creatures, deadly predators, and landscapes both harsh and unfamiliar. These were the first Aboriginal Australians, thought to have arrived on the continent over 50,000 years ago, navigating this land of extremes armed with little more than sharpened stone tools, fire, and an evolving understanding of their environment. They were not passive observers in this ecosystem. They were active participants, hunters, gatherers, and survivors who coexisted with some of the most terrifying megafauna the world has ever known. Humans and monsters walked side by side. The land teemed with creatures like Megalania, a giant venomous lizard that could outrun a person and weigh more than half a ton. There were the Quincan crocodiles that sprinted across land, the Diprotodon kangaroos that towered over men, and massive flightless birds like giniornis. For every step early humans took into the bush, there was the potential for a fatal encounter. But rather than being wiped out by these dangers, they adapted. They used fire to alter landscapes, clearing vegetation to create open hunting grounds, reduce ambush zones, and manage the movement of animals. This early form of environmental manipulation, what scientists now call fire stick farming, was a critical survival strategy and one of humanity's first acts of reshaping a continent. Tools and weapons became extensions of their will to endure. Sharpened spears, axes, and boomerangs weren't just tools of the hunt. They were defenses against predators that no human could match in strength alone. Fossils suggest some large megafauna species began to decline shortly after humans arrived, leading many scientists to propose that hunting played a significant role in their extinction. But this wasn't mindless destruction. It was the hard reality of competition in a ruthless food web. To survive, early Australians needed to outsmart creatures that had dominated the landscape for thousands of years before them. Cultural knowledge passed through generations became essential. Aboriginal oral traditions often describe massive, dangerous creatures, many of which closely resemble extinct megafauna. These stories may preserve the memory of direct interactions with animals long gone, showing how culture, memory, and survival were deeply intertwined. The landscape itself became sacred, not just because of its resources, but because it was the stage upon which countless battles for survival had been fought. Knowledge of where predators hunted, when animals migrated, and how to track, trap, and avoid danger became the foundation of life. Human ingenuity, resilience, and adaptability allowed these early people to thrive in an environment that would have overwhelmed most others. They developed a symbiotic relationship with the land, not conquering it, but learning its rhythms, respecting its dangers, and responding with intelligence and courage. This was not an age of dominance through brute force, but one of coexistence, where the sharp edge of survival honed every skill, every tradition, and every decision. Humans weren't just survivors in prehistoric Australia. They were challengers in a domain of giants, finding ways to endure where few species could. Prehistoric Australia was a survival battleground of monsters, a continent where nearly every ecological niche was filled by something massive, strange, or deadly. It wasn't just one terrifying species that made it dangerous. It was the entire ecosystem, a collection of megafauna and hyper-evolved predators competing, colliding, and adapting in a brutal fight for dominance. Every creature had to evolve beyond the ordinary to survive in an environment where threats came from land, air, and water. It was a land of giants, of speed and strength, where survival wasn't a matter of chance. It was a relentless contest of instinct, power, and adaptation. Unlike other prehistoric environments where a single predator dominated, Australia was filled with several apex species. Megalania, a 7-meter long venomous lizard, ruled the open plains, ambushing and overpowering prey with its crushing bite and toxic saliva. Quincana, the land-walking crocodile, could pursue targets at speed, using its serrated teeth to slice flesh cleanly and efficiently. Thylacoleo, the marsupial lion, possessed one of the most powerful bite forces relative to its size in the mammal kingdom, using its robust jaws and sharp, retractable claws to take down creatures much larger than itself. Even the skies weren't safe. Towering flightless birds like geniornis could deliver crushing kicks, and if startled or aggressive, they could kill with speed and precision. The competition didn't stop there. Herbivores were equally formidable. Procoptodon, the giant short-faced kangaroo, stood over 3 meters tall, moved on 2 legs, and had claws that could injure or even kill a predator if cornered. Diprotodons, the largest marsupial ever known, resembled wombats the size of small cars and likely moved in herds, creating dangerous stampedes when threatened. This dense assembly of monstrous wildlife created a chain reaction of evolutionary pressure. Every animal had to be more alert, more adaptable, and more resilient to survive. Predators became faster, smarter, and more powerful. Prey animals developed greater awareness, stronger defenses, or strategies like herd formation and nocturnal behavior to reduce their risk of being hunted. The food chain was a continuous, high-stakes struggle, and there was no room for weakness. Even the environment itself added to the challenge. Australia's harsh climate, fluctuating between intense droughts and periodic floods, demanded that every species be capable of surviving scarcity, migrating great distances, or finding water and food under the most extreme conditions. In this unforgiving world, early humans entered as small, fragile figures with no claws, no fangs, and no natural armor. Yet they found a way not just to survive but to compete. They used fire to alter landscapes, tools to extend their reach, and cooperation to overcome the limitations of their physical forms. Human intelligence became the ultimate evolutionary advantage in a world defined by physical extremes. The mere presence of humans in such an environment speaks volumes about their adaptability and resilience. It wasn't just a question of surviving the monsters. They had to learn from them, understand their patterns, and anticipate their behaviors. The entire ecosystem operated like a war zone in slow motion, with every creature locked in a constant battle for food, territory, and safety.